Hello and welcome, rookie card collecting friends. Did you know I am on a mission to try to understand the rookie card sports card market of other continents? Leading us off is Javad Luckey from Sports Cards once again, and I'm really excited to share his story with you as we're going to get to know him, but then we're going to dive into the Chinese sports card market as he gives us a lot of details about that sports card collecting market. Are you ready? Then let's do this. All right. So Javad, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Victor. It's really great to be here. I was just saying off camera there that I'm really excited. I've felt like you're one of the people in the hobby that maybe I've never had a conversation with in person yet, but it doesn't feel that way. I feel like just through interaction online and in the different comments and stuff, I kind of feel like I've already gotten to know you, even though I've never chatted with you until this time. So it's really nice to be able to talk in person.
I know, right? The miracle of the technology. Speaking of technology, we had some technological difficulties here in the beginning, but we got the bugs worked out, and I'm glad we got it all straightened out. I invited you, Javad, to the show for primarily two main reasons, and number one is I wanted to just basically learn a little bit about other markets around the world. And I'm doing a series with a number of content creators, and I'm really wanting to learn a little bit about rookie cards and a little bit about other markets around the world. And you're representing China for this episode. And I also wanted to bring you on because I find you very intriguing as a person. There's just such a dynamic about you, right? You are one of my favorite channels to watch. And you can tell because you put in you do a lot of research, you take your time, and you really put together a nice package on whatever topic you're talking about. And that's kind of right up my alley. I feel like you and we have a lot in common when it comes to that side of things.
Yeah, I definitely feel that way too. That's why from the first time I ever started watching your shows, like the thoughtfulness you have behind your process of thinking and kind of the clarity of how you're expressing like your reasonings behind why you think certain things. It's one of the things that within the first video is like, okay, this is a channel I'm going to really enjoy.
Cool. Well, first of all, I want to start with let's tell us specifically kind of like where you grew up and your travels abroad.
Okay, yeah. So I grew up in Oregon, in the Eugene, Oregon area, which is where I am now again. But then for the past 15 years, I've been in China. Just moved back to the States about 2 months ago. So still kind of like getting reused to my home culture again. Feels like I'm in a foreign country now. 15 years away is a long time.
It's a long time.
So we're back here in my hometown again. We're back in Eugene and settling in and kind of figuring out everything. So yeah, so that's kind of my background. Most of my adult life has been in China. I've been working in some international schools. I started off as an English teacher and then moved in and got my teacher's license and was working in the field of education for a while and was kind of like working with like teacher training for a while. And then eventually we started our own business in China as well. We had a small English language school that we were running, and then just 2 months ago moved back here, and then we'll see what happens from here.
All right, man, what a journey. How interesting to just and your wife is from China as well, right?
Yes, she is from China, and that's the reason that we've been there so long. I remember when I first went to China, I was thinking of it as kind of like a experience after college, just kind of have a short experience. But then I met my wife, just pretty short, like a year after I was there, and then we ended up having 2 kids, and life was there. We were living in her hometown for most of the time, which is this beautiful little mountain, kind of a smaller town in southwest China, way up in the mountains. Gorgeous scenery, just really unique culture. There's a diversity of different indigenous tribes and cultures in that area. So it's a unique part of China. I really, really enjoyed it. So
yeah, and you're very transparent in that also. You've done a lot of videos where you kind of show all of that, and even your family, beautiful family that you have, and beautiful sceneries. You show all of that. It's really, that's why I say you're very intriguing as a person. But share with us a little bit how you started collecting sports card, kind of like your origin story and how that's evolved.
Yeah, so it started when I was really young. I mean, when I was looking through my old collection, I think my earliest cards were maybe like 1988 or so, and I was about 7. Baseball cards from that time, and you know, I think when I really got into it deeply though, it was probably more like 6th grade or so. Maybe when I was like 11, around 1992, 1993. And I was really getting into basketball, all things basketball. I played basketball every single day of my life. You know, I'd come home from school and immediately would play basketball for 2 hours and, you know, watch the NBA, you know, follow the statistics like religiously. Like it was, basketball was a lot of things. And so it was a very natural kind of connection into basketball cards at that time as well. And then I also had, you know, a number of close friends who were into it, and it's just got me more and more into it to such a point that I ended up, like, when I was in 7th grade, or maybe even 6th grade, I got a paper route so I could fund my hobby, and you know, was waking up 7 days a week, you know, 6 o'clock in the morning for $100 a month just so I had money to spend on sports cards, and then, you know, continued that for quite a number of years, and then into high school kind of faded away for a long time. I had my collection. It was sitting there at, like, maybe once every 5 years, I would get a Beckett price guide and kind of look at some of them again just to see what's been going on, but was really not engaged with the hobby much for a long time there until during COVID times. You know, I was in China in this tiny, you know, town. We were living in a small village. I was extremely homesick because of all the travel restrictions and everything. And I was just like, oh, I just really want to get back home, at least for a visit, but just didn't have the opportunity. So I decided to look online and see, you know, if I could buy some basketball cards. It was like, that would hit that nostalgia thing. And I found some, and then it just kind of dug into this rabbit hole. The first pack of cards I opened again, I was like, even like the smell of it was so like reminded me of my childhood. Everything about it was so awesome. So I just immediately started going deep into the rabbit hole and getting back into into collecting and learning more about what's been happening and learning more about what was going on in China, because that was a whole new realm of learning that was really fascinating to me, and just kind of learning more about, you know, I've always been interested in kind of intercultural, like the differences between different places and why, what are the reasons behind why, like, supply and demand might be different in the two different markets. And it's just been a fascinating thing to explore over the past couple of years, and it's really what inspired me to make my YouTube channel, because I was like, this is interesting. I think other people will find this interesting. Let me share.
Yeah. Now you're also, from what I see on your YouTube channel, you're also, I don't know whether you're a musician or a rapper and a musician, but tell us a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, so that's been a big part of my life forever. I mean, so since I was young, I've been listening to hip hop music. You know, my favorite music is from when I can remember, like De La Soul and some of these guys from the early days of really good hip hop. And so then when I was in college, I just started to get into it with a couple of friends, like freestyling and got more and more into it, and then started writing, and then, you know, and now at this point, you know, it's become a big passion. I mean, I have another YouTube channel as well. It's my name, Javad Luckey, with my music on there. I've made hundreds of songs at this point. It's an ongoing thing. And
good stuff too.
Say that again.
Enjoy it. Good stuff too. I love it.
Appreciate that. I just recently, you know, because like maybe half a year ago, I ended up having a live stream with Peter Pac-Man from the Rip Pack and Slab, and he does a lot of like hobby hip hop music. We had a like great conversation, and just a wonderful human being in general. And we had a great conversation about hip hop and the hobby. And so I've kind of been trying ever since that conversation to see about, you know, what it means to me to make any kind of like hobby related music. So I've tried a couple of songs. It's not as natural for me to make hobby related music. I like my mind doesn't go to sports cards when I'm sitting down to write a rhyme, but it is fun to kind of experiment and kind of be inspired by Peter Pac-Man and what those guys are doing, to try to do a little bit of that as well.
Yeah, that was a really good episode. Now you also get into writing. You're pretty passionate about writing. Tell us your endeavors in that.
Right. Yeah. So, you know, so I have a Medium page, and on Medium you can create your own publications to to share your own articles, as well as kind of consolidate other people who might be writing about similar topics. So I started a Medium publication called Sports Cards, once again, just like my YouTube channel. And the reason I did it is really because I found when I was doing for my videos that are more research based and like require me to dig into stuff, I basically write an article before I turn it into a video, just because I've got all this information and stuff. And so I was finding that when I was thinking about it, I was like, I could like copy and paste what I'm doing for some of these YouTube videos, turn it into an article, change a few little words here and there, and it would just make sense as an article. So that's basically why I started doing that, because it was just easy. I didn't have any other big reason to do that other than it was as easy to do. So then I just dug deeper into Medium and have been uploading things on there. I'm not as passionate about that. Like with my YouTube channel, I'm trying really hard to build this more consistently and release a video 2 or 3 times a week, and to really like dig into this. The Medium one is kind of like just whenever I happen to make a video that happens to also make to be a good article, then I upload it over there as well. So, but trying to do a lot of things, maybe too many things at once.
But I've been asked a lot of times, they say, man, Victor, how do you do it? You just seem so polished and so well prepared. Well, a lot of that is, number one, research, right? Because you got to do your research, because nowadays everybody fact checks every word you say. People will fact check you, right? So you got to go into the game prepared. You got to do some research. And I typically, I don't do it all the time, but I have in the past, especially when I'm getting ready to do something somewhat educational. I write out what I'm getting ready to say. Okay.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a script, I guess you can call it, because everything is going to flow. My main points are going to flow from one point to the other, because I got a message that I'm trying to convey. But I don't like read it. I'm not looking at a teleprompter. I'm not looking at my notes, reading word for word. What I do is, once I write it, I memorize it. I chew on it for a few days. And what I'm doing by doing that is I'm internalizing my message. And that allows me then to bring a more authoritative presentation, right? More polished, I guess you can call it. But I love that idea of taking your videos and turning it into an article. And it'll only take a few minutes, right? It doesn't take very long to churn it into an article. And you're really now extending another platform that you can extend your content, which is genius. I was going to hop on the Medium thing, and I gave it a lot of thought. But I noticed you're kind of like, to me, at least to my knowledge, on that website platform Medium, you're like the only guy doing sports cards, right?
Yeah, basically. There are so in my publication, I sought out to find other people who have at least written an article here or there that mention sports cards in it. And then I sent them messages, be like, hey, if you wanted to write any other, sports card related stuff, I've got this publication now, if you'd like to be a writer for it and submit, an article whenever you want, like, feel free. So there's a couple of people who are like, oh yeah, that sounds good. So I do have on my publication, like 2 or 3 other people who have submitted something, maybe just a one-time thing, like a memory from like their childhood about sports cards was one article, or, there was another guy who wrote an article that just kind of was a list of a lot of the YouTube channels out there, with just kind of a brief synopsis. Is like 200 different sports card YouTube channels. So there's a couple of people, but I think that's just like a one-time thing for them so far. So yeah, as far as people who have uploaded something more regularly, I think it's just me.
From what I've noticed, and my thing is, I didn't subscribe to Medium. I think it's like a $50 a year type thing. But from what I've seen, because I still get notifications when you write an article, when you post an article. But it seems like it's pretty successful for you. You've created quite the platform there for yourself.
Yeah, humbly. I wouldn't say it was successful. Some of the video, some of the the articles that I'll write, you know, I'm kind of trying to figure out how to get an audience, because the way the whole algorithm works at Medium is quite different than like YouTube or other places. It's kind of like, it's a little bit more random in some ways. Like if you have an article and you get it to a different publication, you know, a lot of my articles that, like when I made a video about like the rookie card of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, like a big section of it was just about the life of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, nothing to do with his card. And so I took that section off and turned it into just an article about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And then I gave that, or I sent that to a different publication that has a wider, just sports-related audience, not a sports card-related audience, but a sports-related audience. And those videos, or those articles rather, tend to get more views. You know, some of the one I made on Mickey Mantle, another one. I made another one on like just like my YouTube journey, like how much money I made in my first month of YouTube. And that one, that article has gotten like, I don't know, like 10,000 or 12,000 views. That article has made me about $50 actually. I'm very happy about that article. It's the only one that's made me a significant amount of money.
Yeah.
But but the other ones, the sports cards ones, they're not necessarily making too much. And a lot of times I don't monetize the sports card related ones either, because I'm kind of, my thought process is, with some of the other ones that are going to other publications, I want to monetize it and try to make some money out of it. For the ones that are going to sports cards, I kind of wanted to, my original idea was to use Medium as kind of just another kind of community space that's connected to my YouTube channel. Like I was kind of hoping there would be a little bridge built between those spaces so that, you know, because, you know, in a YouTube context, a lot of the conversations are you know, 5-word responses in the chat box. And that's really all. It's not like a back and forth much.
Right.
But on Medium and in the written kind of form, it lends itself to potentially a little bit more like ongoing conversation in relation to an article. So my hope was that it might bring some people over there and there would be a little bit more of like a community space there. It hasn't really happened that way. I mean, it doesn't, you know, I don't think there's much of a bridge between my YouTube channel and my Medium page, but the way I figure, I'm just going to keep going on with the Medium thing here and there anyway, and just see what happens with it long term.
I've got my own website that I started in 2016. I've got over 130 articles on there, but I can tell you, you know, very few views or readership. And I think it's, a lot of it is you need to be affiliated with a platform that actually deals with articles. You know, and I think that's my biggest problem. But I've here recently joined Hobby News Daily, a new platform that started up, and I'm writing articles for them. But I know I've seen you on, is it ComC or Card Hedger? You've also written articles for them.
Yeah, Card Hedge. Yeah, I've written a couple of articles. I was doing just, you know, chatting with JD and River over there at Card Hedge, and for a period of time I was submitting articles a couple of times a month, you know, just kind of helping them out, and then in exchange they were giving me a access to their database and stuff to look through some of that stuff. So I was doing that. I'm not doing that currently. I'm probably going to go back to doing that again later. I kind of put it on pause for the moment, just since, you know, with my big transition from China to the US and figuring out everything, I was kind of trying to take some things off of my plate until we kind of figure out what life is here. So probably we'll get back into that, because I really do respect what those guys are doing over there at Card Hedge. JD's wonderful, River's wonderful. They're great company. I really respect them.
Yeah, I did an interview with them recently. They're great dudes. Javad, switching now real quickly to your YouTube channel. Help me understand something here. From what I'm gathering, you've got 324 videos, and your YouTube channel is only a year old. Is that right?
I think it's a year and a half at this point. About a year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
That you're pumping out some content, brother.
Every 3 days is what it's been. Although honestly, I think I might be doing a little bit too much, because, you know, there was a period of time when I was in China, you know, we had our own business, but that my own business only meant about 8 hours of work per week. So I had like a lot of time. You know, I was doing homeschooling with my kids, so my part of the homeschooling day was in the morning, but every afternoon I had free. So I was putting a lot of energy into my YouTube channel. And that's when I was really digging into doing a lot of research-based kind of videos, and the ones that took me that take me longer to create, you know, those were the ones that I was releasing, and every 3 days was a pretty good schedule. I'm a little bit worried if I can keep up that pace anymore, just because I'm noticing since I got back to the States, I'm keeping up the pace, but the nature of my videos has become a little bit more like, what can I put together a little bit quicker? So I think I have to reorient myself a little bit and see, you know, how I can make sure I don't get into just making too many. Let's look through a box of cards and that's about it. Like, I think a video like that every once in a while is fun, but I don't want to do that like too often. I want to, you know, make sure I can try to keep to my roots of kind of finding, you know, these kind of more meaningful topics that are, you know, require a little bit more research or thoughtfulness or things like that. So
which, tell us a little bit about what's your YouTube channel about?
Oh goodness, a little bit of everything. I mean, it's about sports cards, that's clear. But I guess, you know, it started off and I was kind of like, at the beginning, I wanted to just document what I was doing, you know, as I was learning about sports cards in China and how I was, you know, finding the market in China quite a bit different than the market in the US. And I was using that, and I still am kind of using that knowledge to find arbitrage opportunities. It's a common, you know, to buy things in China, sell them in the US. While I was in China, it was largely, I was buying up a bunch of stuff, and then I would send 1,000 cards at a time to ComC, and then sell them on ComC over time. I'm still kind of doing that a little bit, but now that I'm in the US, you know, it's just different context. So that was kind of the beginning and how it started in the YouTube channel. But then as I was, you know, building the YouTube channel, I really wanted to learn things myself. You know, I wanted to see like what was the history of certain sets, or, you know, what is the path that's happened with relics or on card autographs or you know, with parallels and how they are now. Like what was the root of that? How did it come to be where it is now? You know, and I wanted to know a lot more of these things. I kind of, maybe I knew some of it at a surface level, but I felt like a YouTube channel was a good space for me to like explore deeper and then share what I'm learning with people as I'm learning it. Because then I get to learn and I get to share the learning. I'm a career teacher, so it's also like that's like natural for me. That's what I always want to do. I want to learn and then teach, and learn and then teach. It's just kind of my approach to life. So that's kind of how it evolved. And then from then, now it's just kind of like anything sports card related that seems like it would be a nice video and that's like part of, you know, life in some way. I'll make a video about it here or there. Maybe I'm trying to learn how to get a little bit better at vlogging for like sports card shows. Now that I'm back in the States, I went to a sports card show just last weekend. I have to figure that one out. I'm not yet good at that. I find it a little awkward to like have a camera there when I'm like, you know, talking to people and meeting people. It feels a little bit like, I don't know, a little inauthentic, or a little like, what's this thing doing in their faces? Right. And I'm trying to learn that as well.
And I know you've done, I've watched a few videos anyways, where you actually, you did a vlog. You've done that, and you kind of like drove us around China and started showing us different things. Really, really cool stuff, man. I really, really appreciated those videos. But yeah, there's been some backlash on people taking cameras to card shows, but I don't know. It's some dealers are for it and others are against it. But tell me a little bit about the tagline, "Keep calm and collect sports cards." What's that about?
Nothing really. That was actually just totally random. You know, like as I was my YouTube channel was monetized, I was just exploring some of the different analytics and things in YouTube, and it mentioned a thing in there like the little shopping feature that you can add to your channel. I was just exploring like, what is this kind of thing? And you know, I went in and saw that you can like set up a little thing where you can. It's like you know, one of those companies that I think they you know, they print whatever image you have, they print it on a cup or a notebook or a T-shirt or whatever, and then you can sell that. And you know, I was just kind of experimenting, and then saw that it like can, you know, pop up on my little description on my channel. There was really no reason for that particular phrase, except, you know, you always see that "keep calm and something." So I was like, I'll just put this up there, and it was like a 30-minute little experiment one day. That's about all.
All right. So let me ask you this: as a content creator, what do you think? What has worked and what hasn't worked for you?
That's a good question. I don't know. So, you know, I feel like content creation has a couple of different purposes for me. You know, part of it is, like I was saying before, part of it is to give me a space where I can learn. So that's the one thing. Another is, you know, a way to connect with people, connect with the community of sports card hobbyists, which, you know, for me, especially when I was in China, was something I was really eager to do, because I wasn't surrounded by anything. There was no card shows or card shops or other collectors in my city, anything like this. So it was kind of a way to connect with people, was the other thing. That's part of the motivating force that keeps me wanting to do it. You know, and then as far as the videos that seem to do better, you know, I noticed that there's a couple of like topics, at least on my channel, that always seem to do better. You know, when I'm talking about anything I'm doing to make money, those kinds of videos always do well. You know, I've had a lot of videos like on about my ComC, like what I'm doing on ComC and how I'm learning the platform better and what kinds of things I'm doing. Yet? No.
You should be.
I would totally be okay with that. There's not a lot of people I would like seek out sponsorship from, but ComC would totally make sense for me.
Definitely.
But yeah, so I made a lot of videos, and those ones always tend to do better than most. Some other ones, you know, sometimes I find that my history related videos actually don't do very well, which is always a little bit disappointing. But those ones, you probably understand that one too. Generally, it seems like a lot of the histories, like sports card history related channels in general, don't seem to get a whole lot of views. Even even if it's somebody who's like really knowledgeable and like sharing a lot. So those don't get the most amount of views, but I'm still making them whenever I can, because I feel like, you know, it's another thing that I'm learning a lot in those spaces, and I find those to be my very favorite ones to actually make. You know, because it's just a blast to read through, you know, learn about those kinds of things. So, so I'll keep making those occasionally, even if they get less views. They do have a little bit of an evergreen. Like I made a T206 history video one time, and it, like nobody watched it for a long time. But then suddenly, like 8 months after I made it, like it just starts to catch, and like then a bunch of people watch it a bit later. So,
yeah.
So that's, you know, that's the way I figure with some of those. If you put them up there, they'll be relevant forever if they're history related.
Yeah, I've noticed that myself, where the history ones, I made a video. The one that to me is my favorite video of them all is the origin story of the rookie card.
Oh,
now,
cool.
If you were to know the amount of research that went into that video, I went 1 year to the National, and I spoke to a bunch of old timers in the hobby, every dealer that I can find that was gray haired, right? And I interviewed each and every one of them, and I just gathered such rich information on how the rookie card had evolved. And I put this big elaborate video up, right? Just laying all laying the whole story out, and very little views. Very
little. Still today.
Still today. I mean, the thing about the historical research videos is that it's a slow trickle throughout time, as opposed to here's what I picked up this weekend, or here's hobby news type of thing. But they're a real slow trickle. Even my Shohei Ohtani Topps rookie card videos, right? It's a slow. It's got like over 3,000 views, but it's just over time. It's not like, you know what, I guess I take the good with the bad, you know.
I think it might also just be the nature of like the platform of YouTube. You know, like if somebody was on some of the other, like I don't know what some of them are, but I know there's like different video platforms that are more about like, you know, like documentaries or something like that. Like, you know, those kind of videos are probably more for that kind of crowd. It seems like YouTube, a lot of times the stuff that gets the most views, it's a little bit more, you know, shorter videos, a little bit like high energy kind of things, like a little bit, you know, like more quick to learn things, this little thing quickly. Those always seem to do a little bit better on YouTube.
How about your shorts? Are they doing good?
Nope. I barely spend any time on my shorts anymore, because I was finding I would take my videos and I would just try to find little sections in them that would work as a short, basically. And I don't think my videos work well as shorts. I don't have enough of that like hype energy very often. So my my
You got to scream,
my
let's go.
shorts were getting nothing, no views.
Yeah, you got to scream that let's go and you'll be killing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I can't do that. It feels so unnatural. It's
Take
more
your
like
shirt off.
Yeah.
You'll be...
Got to try that one. Got to try that one.
All right. Well, I wanted to transition, hopefully just to get your opinion and thoughts on things. What I'm doing is I am revising the 10 commandments of the rookie card, this document that I give away as a free resource. And I'm doing like a major overhaul in it. And it's come through questions about rookie cards of foreign players. And there's this big push within the hobby about Shohei Ohtani's rookie cards, especially, right? And my thing has been, you know, I get a little salty about it because sometimes I feel like it's all right. We're just chasing the money, right? We're just wanting. We don't really. Do we really care about the foreign markets, or are we just looking or taking advantage of money? Now, are we viewing it as collectors, or are we viewing it as arbitrage opportunities, right? And so I don't know. I've never, to me, in my opinion, there's been two separate markets, and the markets have never intertwined really. Well, there have been attempts at intertwining them, but they really have fallen flat. What's your take on something like that? Is it two separate, or are they intertwined?
No, I don't know. You know, when it comes, I mean, there's a bit of both, you know. So when it comes to just the markets in general, there are separate, you know, I think there's separate forces of supply and demand. There's separate kinds of collectors' mentalities. There are differences for sure, and there's you know, like places, you know, marketplaces and stuff like that that are different. I mean, eBay has a certain kind of, like, you know, international reach, but it doesn't mean it's always, you know, it's always the easiest thing. In China, for example, like eBay is not an easy thing to access. You know, for the longest time, it required PayPal, and PayPal is like basically impossible to get in China. It's just, you know, basically impossible. And just eBay in general is hard to navigate in China. I never used eBay even once when I was in China, because even, you know, I tried to sign up for an account. I bought like 2 cards, and then eBay sent me a message saying my account has been permanently suspended, and I have still to this day have no idea why. I was just never able to use it in China. So some people can. I mean, clearly there are people there, but I think because of the challenges of international shipping and dealing with customs, a lot of times the markets kind of end up being two separate things with just little links here and there. But then when it comes to things like what you're saying about sports cards, like the, you know, like, so you were talking about the Shohei Ohtani rookie in Japan. The closest thing I could think of to an equivalent of that in China's context would be Yao Ming's cards from when he was in the Chinese Basketball Association before he was in the NBA. He does have at least one that I know of, like I think from 1999. He has a Omni card from Omni Company, which is a Chinese-based that has cards for all the CBA, Chinese Basketball Association players. But in China's market, I think those cards are not that highly sought. You know, they're the same price. I mean, it costs like $2 or $3 in the US. It costs like $2 or $3, maybe $4 in China. Maybe you can get an extra $1 or something. But it's not really seen as like the special card, even though it would be the first card that was printed with Yao Ming on it. But it's more the cards in the Chinese market of, you know, Yao Ming is more popular than he is in the US market, I would say, you know, a decent amount more popular. But his it's still the same kinds of cards that people are seeking. You know, the Topps Chrome rookie of the base rookies, you know, would probably be his one that would kind of stand out as the most sought as far as base ones go. And then any of them that are, you know, serial numbered or have a jersey or something from his rookie year, you know, those ones will all be sought. You know, autographs, of course, autographs are super, super sought. But you know, I think it's kind of a similar, what's sought is similar to what would be sought in the in the U.S. market.
So how do they connect? How do they get? What's the distribution for American sports cards or North American sports cards in China? What's their avenue?
Well, so there's several of them. So the main company that does a lot of the distribution in China is called Fansmall. They're based in Shanghai. They're big. They're a breaking platform. They have most of the distribution with Panini and Topps, and maybe even Upper Deck and other things. I'm not sure, but I know with Panini and Topps. It's also like if you want to submit your cards for grading through CSG, they're also like a bulk submitter for CSG in China. So they're kind of like a hub of a lot of things, in relations to the business world of sports cards in China, and so that they also, like the Tmall products, the Asia exclusive products will kind of go through them out to different, different people in China, sometimes through breaks and stuff that they have, but also to, individuals who might have larger scale, like hobby shops. There's not a lot of hobby shops in China, but there are a few. People can get distribution from Fansmall. I know Fansmall also sometimes makes kind of like trades with Dave and Adams and those kind of like large companies in the US. Mm-hmm. Like, they'll send some of the Asia exclusive products to them in exchange for some of the other non-Asia exclusive stuff, so that there's a bit more of that in the Chinese market. And then of course, even though it's not super convenient to buy on eBay internationally, you still can. There's still ways to do it. So a lot of people will also just buy through the same platforms, that people in the US are buying from, and then just get it shipped internationally. So there's different ways, and the hobby community in China is large. I mean, I think next to the US, I'm sure it's the second largest hobby community in the world.
Really?
I'm sure it is. I can't imagine how any of the other. I mean, Canada has per person, maybe Canada has per capita more or something like that, but it's a small country. Australia maybe has a decent amount per capita, but China's just such a massive country, and it's very popular there. It has been for about 15 years or so.
In basketball only, or?
Basketball's the biggest, but soccer is really big too. Okay. If you look through some of the auctions, if you search through there's the website, the app that I used most often in China is this called Card Hobby, and it's the biggest sports card marketplace in China by far. And it's, there's buy it nows, there's auctions, all this kind of thing. I think I heard them say one time that it's like, I don't know, like 55,000 cards a day or something are sold on that platform. It's a big marketplace. Okay. And I would say something like maybe 45% of what's on there is basketball, maybe 40% to 45% is soccer. And then the other 10% is everything else.
Okay. So do they have sports televised in China? Is there access to games, and can they follow the sport?
Yeah, they can follow the sport. I mean, you can watch NBA games occasionally, like on the Chinese TV, but then there's the internet, and there's different ways to connect in through the internet. The games that are live or that are recorded and that you can watch on TV, they happen sometimes, maybe a little bit less often in more recent years. But with the internet, right. Anybody who's a fan of the NBA will figure out a way to, have access to all that.
Yeah. And now you had mentioned CBA, so that's the Chinese Basketball Association. Is there any other sports in China?
Oh yeah, all of the sports.
All of the sports: baseball, basketball, football.
Yeah, I mean, baseball's not so popular, and American football's not so popular, but there's little communities. I don't think there's anything professional actually when it comes to American football or baseball. There's definitely professional soccer. Soccer's quite popular, and there's club level, I guess you could say, for things like American football and baseball. You could probably find club level kind of stuff, but those are really small niche kind of things.
And do they still? You had mentioned a card manufacturer by the name of Omni. Are they still active today? Omni?
Not that I know of.
Is there any card manufacturer?
Well, so the main one is, Panini. Panini is massive in China. They have a massive presence in China for sure. Okay. I have heard a couple of years ago that actually the guys at Card Hobby, the selling platform, that they were trying to, that they had some, maybe this was 3 or 4 years ago, so I don't know if it's still true, but they had some license agreements with the Chinese Basketball Association, and they were actually creating some Chinese Basketball Association cards themselves. I don't know if that's true or not, if that's them, but there are some other, do I have any sitting around? I don't have any sitting around right now, but there are some cards that are CBA cards. I have a small personal collection of some of like the Americans that have ended up in China, and I have like a really cool like numbered out of 100 OJ Mayo card in his Chinese jersey, that's like all like looks really nice. It's a nice looking card. I have a Stephon Marbury numbered out of 25 with him in his Beijing Ducks out uniform. So I have a few of these.
Yeah, he's got to be huge out there, I'm assuming, right? Stephon Marbury.
He was for a period of time, but actually in the CBA, Stephon Marbury was not as good as a lot of the other people who have come through the NBA. He averaged like maybe 20 points a game, which isn't bad, of course. But then you have somebody like Jonathan Gibson, who you've never heard of, but he's a U.S. guy who almost made the NBA, but didn't quite make the NBA. I think he might have gotten drafted in the second round or tried to walk on to the NBA. But in the Chinese Basketball Association, he was averaging like 38, 39 points per game for a couple of years. So, I think Stephon Marbury didn't do as well as a lot of people were thinking he would.
Now let's talk about the rookie card market in China. Is that the most pursued card? I'm assuming is the rookie card of players, right?
Generally, I think the market trends for a lot of those things will parallel the US. It won't be necessarily the exact same prices as the US, but the cards that are sought generally are the same sorts of cards. So I think generally that the rookie cards are sought, or there's certain players that are just really, really popular, and for those players, any card that like is serial numbered or short printed or like looks particularly unique, for those players, for a Stephen Curry, for a Curry card, for a LeBron James card, for a Kobe Bryant card, for a Michael Jordan card, Shaquille O'Neal a little bit maybe, a couple of Yao Ming, of course, Wang Zhizhi, Yi Jianlian, these players. Any kind of like cool looking any year card will be pretty sought for those guys. But for a lot of the other players, it oftentimes is rookie year, not necessarily rookie card, but rookie year cards.
Okay. And I know you've got a lot of videos where you kind of see the two markets, and sometimes you utilize that as an advantage, because you're buying low and then you're selling it in a different market. That's a genius business model, by the way.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit of how you do that.
Yeah. So, how that started when I first got into sports cards in China, and then shortly after that learned about Card Hobby. I went in and I started bidding on some cards that I wanted, and I was noticing that for a number of them, I was getting them for about half of eBay comps. Like I would put in a number, like 75% of eBay comps or something, because I was looking to make good, find good deals right from the beginning. But I kept getting these cards at like 50% comp, 50% comp, 50% comp. It's like, wow, like there's something here. Like this is interesting. So then I spend a bit more time trying to figure out the patterns, because there's certain cards that I'll bid on even close to full comp, and I won't win it because that card will go at 120% of comps. And then there's other cards that I'll consistently get for 50% of comp. So I started to identify some of these patterns, and then would aim my searching, a little bit more into finding those other cards where there was that margin, was wider. And then I would just, bid on those things over and over and over again. So that's kind of been my approach with that. So when it comes to buying cards in China, I'm not looking at PC cards so much, because it's mostly ultra modern. It's mostly cards that I'm getting them to sell them. And then if I'm looking for PC cards, I tend to be looking on like ComC or something like that, where there's a more variety. There's more, vintages. You never find vintage in the Chinese market at all. It's almost always like this year or last year's cards. That's about, that's what you find on the Chinese market. So that's kind of how I've been approaching it.
That's smart, man. So I guess I can walk away with the assumption is that the Chinese market is basically pursuing the North American market as far as the cards. Everything's the same, right? And there's Panini Flawless, Panini Prism, all of that stuff is identical to what the North American market is, right? It's not like a variant or with Chinese letters in the back of the cards, or are
Well,
they English?
it's still English also for the most part, except you'll notice even in your Panini cards, down in the copyright corner, there'll be 3 characters, Panini in Chinese characters. You'll see that still.
I have noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's the same. It's all in English. The only differences will be, the Asia exclusive stuff has parallels that are specific to the Asia exclusive products. A lot of the like in Obsidian, some of the red floods and electric etch floods, green floods, yellow floods, or a lot of red stuff, and a lot of stuff numbered out at 88. Because 88 is a good luck number in China. Okay. So almost anytime you find some kind of parallel that's numbered out of 88, you can almost guarantee it's from one of the China exclusive products. And they have them in basically everything. I mean, they have them in from low end like Chronicles kind of stuff to the higher end, Flawless or National Treasures. There's always some sort of Asia exclusive stuff in there.
Okay, that's interesting.
Okay. A lot of times they're not. I'm just gonna see here if I happen to have anything. A lot of times they're not serial numbered. Some of the SP and SSP short print and super short print stuff actually doesn't have any serial number, but they're estimated like to be numbered. The gold waves, for example, from a lot of different products. There was a product called Gold Wave. Here's one. This is a gold wave from the Mosaic. So this is a super short print. So I think I've heard it estimated that there might be less than like 15 of this card. But there's no serial number on it. There's also the red waves, which are more common than the gold waves, but they're still short printed, but they don't have the serial numbers on it. And you find those in almost any product has like an Asia exclusive variant like that.
Okay.
Some of them are really cool. Like in Obsidian, I feel like some of the Asia exclusive stuff is the most beautiful stuff. The Elite in Donruss Elite, the Asia exclusive, they're gorgeous. They're so much nicer looking than any of the other variants I've found. So
that's interesting.
That's nice stuff to see.
These Asia exclusives, do they have rookie players in them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
really.
Sure.
That's interesting. What is a resource if I wanted to learn a little bit about these Asia exclusives? What's a resource to really dig into?
I think just the same places that share like Cardboard Chronicles or whatever, or Cardboard Connections. I can't remember what it's called, but where they just share like the different like checklists and stuff. Oftentimes you can see what the Asia exclusive cards are going to be within that checklist.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
Interesting. And there's no like no special magazine or publication or not that I know of. I know that guys at Card Hobby had tried for a period of time to publish different articles about these sorts of things, but I don't know how regular they are about that stuff. And I think when they do publish it, oftentimes it's in Chinese as well. Right. Okay.
So I don't know too much about other written materials.
Okay, so then it would be basically you guys use comps as your resource, Card Hobby comp.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so a lot of people use eBay comps also. Even because the Asia exclusive stuff makes its way into the American market quite frequently. You can buy the Asia exclusive products on a lot of it's the same websites that people, large websites that people will buy any other kind of wax, or on eBay you can find it pretty regularly. So it's around. It's not uncommon. So even breaking platforms go onto Whatnot or Loop or whatever. A lot of the people who are breaking on there will have Asia exclusive options on their list of things they're selling. So a lot of that stuff does end up on the market. But there are market forces that are a little different because of there's more supply there's a decent amount of supply in America for some of those Asia exclusive stuff, but there's certainly more supply in China. So that was one of the things I would always look for, is the Asia exclusive singles, you know, because I could find them for so cheap in China oftentimes, because that's where, you know, if there's like that Cole Anthony card I was just showing you, if there's 10 or 15 of that one printed, most likely, you know, 2/3 of that is probably in China. So only 1/3 of that is in the Western market. So it means that it's pretty rare. So, you know, you can buy it for relatively inexpensive in China. And then if you can find somebody who knows what they're buying in the US and they realize that, hey, actually this is a super short print card, even though there's no serial number, that you can sell it for a decent amount more.
Okay. And kind of similar, because I know, if you recall, in the mid 90s, I believe it was Collector's Choice, where they did Collector's Choice International, and they ended up doing for UK and, you know, Asia market and all these continents, right? But those cards really never, even today, you look at the values on them today, they're like next to nothing. And if you look at the pop reports are extremely low on those cards.
Yeah.
But you can pick them up for like next to nothing. They just never really took off.
Yeah.
I don't know. Product like that over in China, is it popular, or is it just?
I think those ones are not any more popular, like those Collector's Choice ones. I think those were, I don't know. They look the same as the ones that were in the US. Maybe I don't even know what the difference is, except when I see them like on ComC, it's like it says Italy or something.
Yeah,
but they look the same.
Two little sentences on the back of the card that are written in a different language. That's pretty much
about it. Yeah. So maybe if like sports cards took off in Italy or something, maybe those Italian ones, you know, from that time would become more popular or something like that. But otherwise, I don't think there's enough reason for those kinds of cards to really like jump in anybody's mind as anything particularly special. Some of the Asia stuff, you know, is because there's a big market in China, there's more of it. It becomes a little bit more apparent out there. You know, you can see the Asia exclusive reds is in a lot of products. So some people find that, hey, actually, I really like this, and so it becomes something they might, you know, actively seek out a little bit more, because it's different enough from other things. It can, you know, if somebody is looking for parallels that they like, sometimes it can be like, this is a parallel I like a bit more than some of the other parallels. If I'm going to get a parallel, maybe this is the one I'll aim for. So I think there's a somewhat a collector base for some of the Asia exclusive stuff, even in the US.
Yeah, no, and I believe it is. It's there's not a lot, but there is a niche of collectors out here that are really into that kind of thing. Even they're popping up on YouTube here recently more and more. And so I'm hoping to gain a little bit more insight on that as I'm revising the 10 commandments of the rookie card. I'm trying to gather up some information so I can make an educated decision on how I want that portion of that to read, basically. So with that said, what's next for Javad? I know you made this big transition from China over back to the US. What's next for you?
That's a good question. It might be a better question to ask me like a month or two from now. So we're kind of figuring it out, you know, as we're settling in here, what our life is going to look like long term. We've got a few like small things already set up. But, you know, we're still like, we have a house, but we haven't moved into it yet, because you know, in my hometown, you need to give the renters 3 months, you know, when you're asking them to move out. Yeah. And they actually asked us if they could stay till the end of the school year, because they have a couple of kids in the local school. So we said that's fine. So they're there until like mid-June. And so we're probably not going to move into our house until the beginning of July. So we're actually staying with my parents for a couple of months right now while we wait for the house. And then, which also means that my costs are really low right now, which is a nice way to transition back home, back to the U.S. again.
Right.
And then we're kind of figuring it out. So my wife's been applying for a few jobs. I have a part-time job already, and we also, you know, we had a business in China, and we have shifted some of that to online. So we still are kind of maintaining some of our classes that we had before. And then I'm trying to see what I can do with sports cards. Honestly, there's a few things that are possibilities related to kind of this connection between the US and China that I'm exploring. And so I'm not looking for a full-time work elsewhere yet, because I'm going to give myself a couple of months to see what may be possible in this space. You know, in my time in China, I have made a number of connections with people that are involved in the sports card spaces, in some of the business spaces, and some of the you know, kind of like at the crux of where a lot of business meet on the China side of things. So I'm kind of looking into the possibilities of what might be possible. We'll see. So ask me again in a couple months. I'll have more clarity.
All right. And going to the National this year?
I hope to. It would be so awesome to go there. So part of that might depend on the nature of, you know, with this business that I'm thinking about, the possibility of building, where it's at that point. You know, if we were going to build it, then I'd probably want to go there and make sure to, you know, make connections and network, and of course, you know, find cards to buy and sell, which is so much fun there. Because the sports card shows in Oregon are fun. They're great, but so far the ones I've been to are, compared to what I watch people doing on YouTube, they're so small. They're still great. I love them. They're so much fun for me, but I'm like, I want to go to a bigger one. So I might go down to Burbank, possibly in, you know, I think their next one is August or something. I might go to that one. Yeah. We might go to the Chantilly show, possibly, just because in June we were planning on going and visiting. I have a bunch of family over on the East Coast near Washington, D.C., so we might possibly go to this Chantilly show. Okay. But I hope to go to National as well. I know you're going to be there. It's in your home.
yeah, literally. Well, we can find you on YouTube at Sports Cards. Once again, I totally highly recommend you checking him out. If you don't know Javad already, check out his channel. I guarantee you're going to love his stuff. Javad, where else can we, on the socials, where can we reach you if we want to contact you?
So I am on Instagram. I don't use it too often, but I am there. It's at SportsCardsOA. Am I anywhere else? I think that's about it for the moment. Medium, you can look on Medium, the Sports Cards, once again, publication on Medium. So that's about it for now. And you can check out my music channel, Javad Luckey, on YouTube as well. Listen to some good hip hop music.
Yeah, man, I love it. Well, Javad, I would just want to, man, dude, thank you so much for hopping on with me and sharing some insight on the Chinese sports card market. I'm glad to get to know you. I hope that this continues, this friendship continues to evolve over time. And I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for joining me.
I echo all of those things too. It was very good to chat. I enjoyed it a lot.
All right. Thank you, folks. Well, that's going to be it for this one. Until next time, I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, smash that thumbs up button, and I will catch you on the next one.